what do you think is disappointing investors? Because it sounds like great news, and at the same time, we see the shares this morning, Henrik, down 2.5%.
Yeah, no. As I said here, I will avoid commenting on minor and short-term swings in the share price. I think we have come out with a year 2019 where we actually came out in the high end of our predictability on both the activity and turnover. And I think, as you would appreciate, when we talked about it in Q3, we were saying we were entering the busiest and highest activity quarter ever in the Vestas history. And I think, on behalf of the team here, it's really an acknowledgement of saying everyone had pulled together and delivered on our promises for that fourth quarter. So I'm actually immensely proud of what the team has done here and also delivered on Q4. Then we are now, we are coming into 2020. Where we actually, when we look at our guidance, we will see between 14 and 15 billion euros. And I always say keep the perspective, because when we exited 2018, we exited a Vestas that was around 10 billion euros, and now we are also talking about potentially something that is 40 to 50% higher in an underlying industry that is super supported by the mega trend and the move towards renewable.
Yes, so there's support there for the industry. Henrik, good morning to you. I see in terms of the EBIT margin, you are forecasting 7 to 9% for this year. What are your expectations for how that kind of profitability measure can evolve, Henrik? Because this is a business where profitability has been under pressure, for the sector, I mean, because of, yes, it's high volume, but also fairly low margin. So how does that margin figure evolve?
Yeah, you will appreciate me saying we have three areas. We are in onshore, the power solution there, we are in service, and we are in offshore. And we know one thing, and we know that for our history, is that it requires an enormous discipline, both operationally and financially, to run a company, both that is expanding in this way, but also running projects of our magnitude. So we put an enormous discipline into how we execute on each project, and that goes throughout the whole value chain. So for us, we are very diligent, and I also say here, when we then see, for instance, in 2019, that our supply chain is disturbed a few times throughout the year due to change in tariffs or even restrictions on import-export, then of course that's a year where we have to make a lot of adjustments. Some of those are continuing in 2020, but of course we try very hard every day to work as diligent we can to circumvent some of these challenges.
It is, increasingly, as we've talked about before, wind gets a bad rep in Germany for some reason that I am not 100% sure about. People from the left and the right seem to be increasingly against new wind turbines being erected. Why is that, and do you think it can change public opinion?
I think we work constantly with all our stakeholders, and I think for me it's a little challenge to comment on groups of citizens in and around a global perspective, because we just exited 2019 with a record order intake of nearly 18 gigawatt. And I will say here, we are also indicating to everyone that we are very confident coming into 2020. So in reality, right now, I think there will always be a debate of how do you actually permitting, how do you put our renewable solution. But I think that is up against also the need and demand for also putting renewable solution in. And I wonder, probably over time, we tend to see that these two generally meet somewhere and find areas and also, of course, ground for putting the right solution in place. So I'm not that worried about that thing. But of course, it takes some time, and it also involves some conversations with people that sit with that attitude towards it.
Okay.